In the 1850s, some Indian cloth mills were set up with much courage, first in Mumbai and then in Ahmedabad. Thus, cloth came to be made on machines in India. Some educated people and factory owners demanded that some tax be levied on cloth coming from Britain so that the cloth being made in India might get a protected market. The special tax made the British cloth more expensive, and this would encourage the sale of cloth produced in Indian factories.
In Britain, the government levied special tax on the cloth made by Indian weavers in order to help the cloth industry of Britain, but the government refused to levy a similar tax in India on British cloth to help Indian industry. The pressure of the British factory owners and traders on the government was so much that it could do nothing against their interests. In 1896, the British government of India experienced a severe reduction in its income. The government began to think of ways in which it could increase its income. It was then, in the hour of difficulty, that the government levied a 3.5% tax on the cloth coming to India from Britain. But in order to prevent any harm to the sale of British cloth, the government levied the same amount of tax, that is 3.5%, on the cloth being made in India as well.
The imposing of this tax was not easy for the Indian people to accept, and this became one of the causes of the long-drawn conflict between the Indian people and British government. By imposing tax on goods made in Indian factories, the government has made it clear that it would protect mainly the interests of the British factories. There was strong opposition in this tax in India and persistent demands to remove it. Even without government, factories producing cloth, thread, sugar, paper, jute, matches, cement, etc. were set up in India, but their rapid development took place only after 1914. During the First World War, 1914 till 1918, the import of foreign goods to India fell sharply. One of the reasons was the cargo ships were diverted for war-related duties, and hence there was shortage of ships. Moreover, in the factories of Europe, war-related goods were being made, so fewer goods meant for Indian markets were available.
Under these circumstances, the factories that had been established in India started selling goods in greater quantities. Enthused by these sales, there was a rapid development of industries. After the war came to an end, European machines were purchased in large numbers for Indian factories, and new factories were also set up. Indian industrialists began demanding very forcefully that the government levy tax on foreign goods so that higher sales of Indian goods might continue in future as well. Finally, the government had to accept these demands. After 1917, taxes were levied on numerous foreign goods, one after the other. As a result, factories set up in India were able to develop speedily. Things were not so good as far as various industries in India during the period of independence were concerned.
After a long struggle, Indian industry got little help from the British government. A larger factories, banks, ships, etc. were in the hands of the Europeans, and they had many advantages with these companies. Being Europeans, they had easy access to all types of offices and authorities of the British government, whereas the Indians were denied access to such places. Moreover, all the foreign trades were in the hands of the Europeans, so they never had shortage of funds. Despite the influence of the Europeans, the Indians advanced a great deal. For example, the Indian industrialists were under complete control of the textile industry. The greatest achievement of the Indian industry was the setting up of a steel factory in Jamshedpur by the Indian industrialist Jamshedji Tata. The help received by the Indian industrialists from the government in the form of tax on foreign goods was important but hardly adequate. Many resources and facilities were needed, such as railways, roads, electricity, coal, and iron. The British government did not pay adequate attention to the development of these areas.
Another problem that the Indian industrialists faced was that they had to purchase all the machines from abroad. Industries that would manufacture machinery had simply not started in India. Moreover, for the development of industries, help was needed from scientists, engineers, and technicians. Educated workers at all levels were needed, but education was not given adequate importance in India. Foreigners had to rely on for the development of industries, as the number of scientists and engineers were very few. In order to promote the interests of the Indian industry, many organizations were formed during the British times. One of the most important ones is the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Such organizations help in showcasing the problems of the industrialists to the government. With the end of the British rule in India and the formation of free government of Indians, situations changed. The government of India gave encouragement to the growth of industries in a planned fashion.